But I am excited. So we had a really great session last week. I didn't want to get off. For those of you all who were on, thank you for participating in the conversation. I think we learned a lot from each other. I'm kind of shifting gears just a smidgen. We're going to talk about newsletters, but I promised you all some more information last week. And rather than emailing it to you, I really thought it was so important we needed to talk about it. So if y'all are okay with that, here's what we're going to do today. So I titled this From Post to Inbox. So we're going to strengthen engagement through social media and newsletters. So we're going to kick our day off still talking a little bit about social media. Okay. So I hope y'all are okay with that. I'm going to answer some of the questions we had at the end of last week. But before we do that, let's check in really fast. And you guys tell me what's one social media win you had this week? Anybody?
Well, what's poignant is our food bank, which Big Ugly is a half an hour drive. It's the only public building for a half an hour drive in any direction. It's very, very rural. On Veterans Day alone, we had 184 families come in for food. And the way we get the word out is through Facebook. I'm looking at doing a saturation print mailing because there are folks that are not on Facebook, and I still like print. But yeah, I mean it was very effective letting people know what the hours were, and just infuriating that people need that.
Agreed. Anyone else? I wrote down some examples, some things to kind of make you think. So, did anybody post something for the first time in a while? Did anybody try out a reel where you post the little videos and the reels at the top of your screen? Did you share a new story that mattered? Did you maybe take some better pictures than you have been? Did you use a platform that you haven't used before? Or maybe you just scheduled your week and got your plan together. Anything?
So I did a reel. We're doing an event this Saturday. And one of the things we're doing is for people that can't come and be with us at an event, we invited people to purchase a gold star for $5 to honor a woman in your life. And so we're going to do garlands of golden stars. And so we were doing the first ones of those Tuesday night. And so I took some video of the gold stars with all the names, because I was also thinking, if Ryan bought a star for Michael, like Michael might not even realize. So we did a video with all the stars we've done so far and shared that and put the link for people to be able to buy more stars.
Great. So love you guys. Sometimes it's just that's the key is just getting out there, trying it. You may not get it right the first time, but you will eventually. But trying it is the main thing that you can do. And just keeping in mind that those small wins that you're getting, like what you all have done, I mean, that's what's going to build your momentum. So, okay, let's get into today's content because I have a lot and I don't want us to waste any time. So one of the biggest challenges that I have seen that nonprofits face is we're small and we try to be everywhere, right? So we just really cannot possibly be everywhere all at once. So what I want us to do is to focus on kind of those main social media platforms that we talked about last week. All of them have different audiences. They have different strengths. They have different posting frequencies. All of those things are going to be different depending on the platform that we're talking about. And so this first one that we're going to talk about is Facebook. This is what you all had asked me about last week, and I wanted to make sure that you had this information. So with Facebook, when you think about the strongest platform that we have to use, it's going to be Facebook, especially in rural areas. It's going to have the biggest demographic. So if you look at anywhere from ages 25 to 65, I mean, you're going to have everyone from your kids to your grandparents on Facebook. And so that is going to be kind of your biggest bang for your buck if we're thinking about it that way. But that's where you're going to hit families. You're going to get your volunteers, your donors, your local community members, honestly, it is truly, if you were going to pick one, this is the one. That's why I'm starting with it. You want to think about community storytelling, event promotion, volunteer highlights, partnership, and photos that have faces. So people want to see, if you are working with students, they want to see your students' faces. So think about when you're doing your photos, they want to see photos with faces. The ideal posting frequency, we talked about this last week, it's about 3 to 5 times a week. So think about it that way. The best days to post are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 2. I don't know why that is, but research says it. So I guess Mondays, everybody's busy. They're trying to get in. By Tuesday, they're like, phew, okay, I got a little work done yesterday. Now let's look at some social media. But I think that 11 to 2 time frame is because that's when people take lunch. And so they're stopping from work and they're just kind of taking that mind break that we all need in the middle of the day to stop, scroll, see what's up, and then going back to work. So why should nonprofits use Facebook? We talked about this a second ago. Largest reach of any platform for rural and multi-generational communities. So that is why we want to use Facebook. Instagram. So think of this as your visual storytelling platform. So it is going to skew female just a little bit. You can see it's, 52 to 54% female. But it's a really good mix overall of male to females. Your age group is going to be 18 to 44. But I do think that it is growing tremendously. I put on here growing among parents with young children. I'm 45. I've got a 13-year-old and 2 10-year-olds. So if you think about that, I use Instagram a lot on a personal level. My sister is 16 years older than me. She's 61. She uses Instagram a lot more than she uses Facebook. So it is growing and more people are using it, especially with all of the, social media influencers. I feel like I spend more money on Amazon now because of Instagram than I ever did before, because people are getting on there and they're posting all of their, dupes from the higher end brands that I can get on Amazon, and I'd rather get them there. So when I think about Instagram, that's where my mind goes. Think about your visual storytelling. We talked last week about how you could do the behind the scenes pictures on there. It's a great place also for quotes, highlighting your volunteers, highlighting your staff. You want to post about 3 to 4 times a week. I like to do the grid post. So if you think about if you've got 3 or 4 pictures, making sure that they all kind of match in the way that they look. And then really you can post on there just about any time, any week, any day of the week. People are scrolling on Instagram a lot. Monday through Thursday, mornings perform really well. But why should nonprofits use it? Because there is a lot of engagement. People are looking for positive engagement. If you think back to Facebook, one thing we didn't talk about was, if somebody's going to complain, they're going to Facebook to complain about it. I mean, can I get an amen? It's so annoying, right? I just want to be like, that is not okay. Stop. But people are doing that. Instagram, it is positive. Everybody's happy. They're not getting on there and complaining. So it is a great place to engage with your users for positive, inspirational type content. LinkedIn. Now, this is where I think it gets interesting. So LinkedIn is more male dominated. So 56%, 44 female. So not too bad, but this is where you're going to go for your professional presence, if you think about it that way. So this is kind of we talked about this last week, but just hitting on this again. This is where your funders, your partners, your civic leaders, and other agencies are watching what you do. It's not so much about engagement, but it's about them watching what you're doing. So this is going to help give you credibility among other organizations in your area of expertise. So what should you post? You want to post partnership wins. You want to post data. You want to post outcomes. You can highlight your staff on there. If your staff is speaking at a conference, highlight them on there. You want to give them that credibility as well. So not just your organization, but the people who are working with you. You want to give them that credibility. It's a great place for thought leadership. So if you have ideas on, being a nonprofit, it's a great place for thought leadership. Michael, did you have something?
Yeah, I know. I joined Facebook. I'm always getting, please join, please link with me, please link with me. There seems to be a much broader range of people that don't necessarily have anything to do with my community. Facebook, you sometimes will get, you might know somebody, but it's mostly people that at least know somebody you know. So I don't know if there's a way to filter that, or are people insulted if they say, please link with me and you don't link back? That's, there's an awful lot of people that I know very tangentially. And then, there's all these people who think I'm looking for a job that send me notices.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I get a lot of spam, recruit me for this or recruit me for that. So I want you to think, so Facebook, you were going to have your friends on there. LinkedIn, not necessarily. You may have another organization that's similar to yours on the other side of the country that they might want to, link with you or connect with you on LinkedIn, and you'll never speak to them or talk to them, but they're watching what you do so they can learn from you. So I always think of LinkedIn, not necessarily as even people I know, but it's a place where, you may be able to influence someone, who's doing kind of what you're doing or is interested in what you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't know that people get offended if you don't connect with them. But just think about, who you might be able to help or pass some information along by linking with them.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Hootsuite is a lot more expensive. It is the one that we actually use with PRI. It is great because we have a large team of people who are using it. You can use it for social listening. So it's listening always for your name to be mentioned. You can put in keywords, all that kind of stuff. It just does a lot more. So if you have the budget for that, awesome. If you don't, I would stick with the Buffer or the MetaSuite. So I just wanted to kind of hit on that because those are very big differences in cost. So does that help you guys on those? Is anybody else using these?
I think that if anybody has a question here, Ryan, about Buffer in particular, I think that, Jamie's been using it for a bit. So if anybody has a question about that, I'm sure Jamie would be willing to, sorry to volunteer you for that, Jamie, but I know you have experience with it, and sometimes having that person is helpful. So, yeah.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out via email or anything if you have any questions about it afterward. I'm happy to help.
Yeah,
how much is Hootsuite?
Hootsuite is anywhere. It's around $100 a month, and that's for the basic. Yeah. When you add social listening onto it, the price goes way up, way up. So anyway, it's not. I would recommend Buffer if you are going to use more than one, more than Facebook and Instagram. In fact, I'm actually going to recommend that to PRI for switching. So anyway, but I do recommend doing this because just like who was just saying that, Brandy was just saying that she's part-time. It's only part of her job. We said this at the beginning, you can't be everywhere. And if you are trying to go in and you are trying to post on all the different platforms, you've spent a good chunk of your morning getting all of that scheduled. And so when you are using one of these platforms, you can plan your content, you can stay consistent, and then you can also analyze your performance. So you all asked me to give you some examples of nonprofits to watch. So what I'm going to do is stop for a second and let you all take a picture of this screen, because you all can go back and look at some of these and check them out as, when you have time, when you all are on your 11 to 2 lunch break scrolling. But what I loved about Charity Water is it has really incredible visuals. When you look at that, you'll be able to see the little videos that they post. They're great. The Trevor Project is very authentic. And so, that is a huge plus when you're looking at an organization. You want to be authentic. You want people to see the real you. The World Central Kitchen It shows a real-time impact. So you'll kind of see that it's a very fast, human-centered storytelling. Do something. I love that it's youth voices. That's just my passion. So I love that it's very trendy. The National Park Foundation, they use user-generated content. So check that out. I thought that was kind of cool. And then Strive Together is a national organization that we actually partner with at PRI. It's data storytelling and partnerships. So depending on what your organization does, those are all different options that you can look at to see, how you can not necessarily copy them, but maybe let them inspire you and give you some ideas. Did everybody get that picture? Okay. But I love Appalachia. And so I said, those are great national organizations to look at, but who in our area is doing things really well? And so I love the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky. So they are, to me, a regional standout. I mean, they are just really doing it right. Their content feels very rooted. It feels local. It feels authentic, and it is full of community pride. And that is what a nonprofit is all about, right? So we want to share that. We want people to get on our pages, and we want them to feel that. We want them to feel that pride. We want them to feel the authenticity. And so they have a clear visual identity and a very strong storytelling presence. So I highly recommend that you look at their social media. And I did put little pictures on here for the 3 that I chose, so you guys can make sure you were finding the right places. The Apple Shop. Has anybody ever been to that or worked with the Apple Shop in Whitesburg? Yeah. So they are, in my opinion, a masterclass of cultural storytelling. I mean, they're incredible. Their feed highlights the beauty, heritage, and resilience of Appalachia. Again, you go to their page, you feel the work, you know the work, you know what they're doing, and you know why. They are a great example. If you want to lean into your identity of who you are, they're a great example of that. And then everyone knows SOAR. They're just doing a really great job of showcasing the work that they're doing. So they showcase workforce, any kind of entrepreneurship, real success stories. They do a great job of sharing those real success stories. So I liked that one as well. So those are 3 local ones that you guys can check out. So we spent our first 30 minutes talking about the same thing we talked about last week, but I wanted to dive into that. I did not want you guys to feel like we didn't get into some of that stuff, and newsletters won't take as long. So any questions on social media before we move on? Okay. All right. So how many of you get newsletters in your inbox and you don't read them? All of us, right? I'm raising both hands. So we want newsletters that people actually read. And I put this little quote on here for you guys to think about it this way. So social media is going to get your brand attention, but the newsletter is going to build those relationships. And so that's what we want to focus on. You know, a follower might see one of your posts, but they're going to get your newsletter month after month after month. And so you are in their inbox every month, and you want to be the one that they open. It's a great place to build that trust and that long-term engagement to grow. So I'm going to give you a few tips here. So great newsletters share 5 main qualities. Y'all ready? Got your notes ready? All right. So you want to have a clear purpose. So when someone opens up your newsletter, you want them to know what it is that you are trying to achieve. What are you trying to teach them? You want to talk to one person and not the masses. So obviously you're sending it to the masses, but you want them to feel like this newsletter was written directly to them. You got to have a strong visual hook. So when they open it up, you want that picture to capture everything that you are trying to say in that newsletter. And then, as much as I would love to believe that people are reading every word in my newsletter, they are not. They are scanning. And so you want to make sure that if they are scanning, that your hot spots, the things that are most important, are really standing out. And then you want to have one call to action. We've talked about our social media post and having those call to actions. But in a newsletter, people are not clicking 5 different things. They're not going to do 5 different things, but they might do one. And so those are the 5 elements of a strong newsletter. So once you know what you want your newsletter to do, how in the heck do you put it together? So we're going to start with our subject line. Okay. And I'm going to run through these. And so you may want to snap some pictures, take some notes, however you want to do it. That is fine. There was a lot to get into this week. So I can always send the screenshot, but you're going to get the recording as well. So when that newsletter comes into your inbox, I want you to think about that subject line, because the subject line is what's going to get people to open it. Without a good subject line that really grabs their attention, people are not going to open it. So you want to keep it short, okay? 40 to 50 characters or fewer. Most people open emails on their phones. So also think about that you want to make sure that it is easier to digest at a glance. Make it very specific and not generic. So we do not want our newsletters to be, this is the December 2025 newsletter. We want it to be what you helped accomplish this month. Does that make sense? I hope I'm not going too fast for you all. We want to use curiosity to give them a reason to click. So you'll want to see this, a story that made us smile today. Guess what happened at the library this week? That sort of thing. We want to give them that curiosity to think, well, what happened at the library this week? I didn't know about that. You want to lead with value for the reader. This is about value for them, not value for your organization. So keep that in mind. Sometimes we get caught up in the work that we're doing that we have to remember, why does this matter to them? So you want to give tips, resources, include those feel-good stories, useful info or opportunities. And then you want to put the most important words first. So think about, like with your subject line, phones are going to cut off long subject lines. So instead of this month at Pine Mountain Settlement School, you want to try a beautiful moment at Pine Mountain. Does that make sense how we're kind of switching that around? You want to use emotion. I mean, we've talked a lot about emotion in the stories. That doesn't end with your social media. That's going to continue on into your newsletter. So things like, this made us proud of our community, or a moment of hope from Harlan County, that kind of thing. Whenever possible, you want to make it personal. A story for you, your impact this week, how you helped a local student. If you are doing donor relations, for instance, and you are trying to get folks to, give to your organization. So sharing a story about how their donation made a difference. So your donation helped this student, blah, 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 blah. Those are the ways that you want to kind of grab that personal connection there. You want to avoid any kind of spammy or salesy words. We're not looking for the freeze, the urgent, the dollar signs, none of that. So you want to leave all those things out. And then consider asking a question. You can say, have you seen this yet? Or can you help us celebrate this win? So those are some ideas for if you wanted to use a question. And then last but not least, test what works. So when you're sending a newsletter, you can actually just, duplicate it, change your subject line, use 2 different subject lines and test them. See which one has the highest open rate and see, you'll kind of learn from that. A good subject line is a promise. And I love to think of it that way. So you want to make it meaningful. Any questions on those subject lines? Okay. Here's a few examples. One could be a win that made all the difference for one local client. I was thinking about the law firm, so that's a great opportunity to share a story about a local client. 5 programs you won't want to miss this week. So Michael, I was thinking about you on that one. How do you want to, share in the 5 programs that you're going to have for your students this week? Your support fed someone today. Thank you. So those are ideas that you can use for the subject lines. And then we have a newsletter checklist. So we're going to run through this one. Yes, I see you taking pictures, Emily. That's a good idea.
Hey,
So,
Ryan, can I
yes.
interrupt you just for that? There's a question in the chat around that Annette asked, is there a free service that can send out newsletters? So sorry to interrupt you, but
You're good.
that question emerged there for Annette.
Yep, we're going to go through the different services here in just a minute. We'll go through those too. Yep. So, okay. So thinking about your newsletter, once you've got your subject line, then you're going to put the body of the newsletter together. And so this checklist is going to walk you through step by step how to create this newsletter. So when you've got this second subject line is kind of what I like to call it. So you've got your regular subject line, and then when you get on there, it's almost like a little subhead, and you can put that on there. So you want to make sure that you've got a really strong subhead. Things like your subject line might be a quick story to brighten your day. And then the preview text may say, you helped a student find her voice this week. Beth, that would be, I was kind of thinking of you on that one with the Girl Scouts. You want to open with a clear, warm greeting. So you do not want to use any kind of generic or stiff intros. You want to keep it personal and conversational. Hi, friend, that kind of thing. Remember, we're talking to one person. So we're obviously talking to the masses. We want them to know we're talking to them. So I put an example on here. Hi, friend. I wanted to share something meaningful that happened this week. So that might be your intro. And then start with one compelling story, not 10. We are going to share all 10 of those right on social media, but pick the one. Pick the one that just really resonates, that you really want to share, and start with that. This is going to be your lead story. It should be short, emotional, human-centered, and always supported by a photo. I think sometimes that's the part people will leave out, but find a photo, something that will go along with your story. And then think about setting it up in 1 to 2 sentences, and then give your emotional detail, your success point or transformation, and then your call back to your mission. All the same things we talked about with creating your story, right? So that's still that same layout in this. So here's an example. Last Thursday, a grandmother walked into the Perry County Library holding her grandson's hand. She told us he had never checked out a book before, but that changed today. And then what would you imagine the picture to be? A picture of either the book the kid checked out, if you didn't get a picture of the grandma and their grandson. But then you go on to tell that story. So you want to keep your layout really simple because we want it to be scannable, right? So if we're going to have, 5 different sections, you really want to be something that people can scan easily and see what they want to read. You want to use headers. You want to use bullet points. You want to use short paragraphs. If you have key text or phrases that you want to stand out, bold them. There is nothing wrong with, scrolling. If I see a phrase that catches my attention in bold, I'm more likely to back it up and read that whole story. And then you want to avoid walls of text. People just cannot digest that. You need to, share it in chunks. So think about no paragraph longer than 2 to 3 short sentences. And then, so you're going to have your main story, then you can have 2 to 3 additional sections. So you might want to highlight a volunteer, share an upcoming event, share a helpful resource, give a quick program update, or link to a story or video. But the best newsletters feel curated and not crowded. They feel curated and not crowded. So you've got your main intro story, 2 to 3 more stories. Remember, I said 5 a few minutes ago. So here's where we are with our 5. And then you're going to end with that one clear call to action. Does that make sense how you're lining all that up? So your call to action might be that you've got an event you want someone to register for. You might want to ask them to donate. You might want to ask them to share your newsletter or maybe attend an event. You can also, if you have a blog, you may want to ask them to read more. So connect them to your blog or connect them to your social media to be more engaged in the work. You may want to ask them to volunteer or take a survey. So those are just some ideas for some calls to action. When you have that call to action, though, you want to make sure that there is a button and it is bold and unmissable. You want to make sure that they can see it and they know that that is a very clear call to action. And then here's where some people just miss the golden opportunity is you want a personal sign off. So it's fine that your newsletter comes from your organization as a whole, but who's sending it? So Mike, if you're sending this from Brushy Hog, Lord have mercy. I'm looking at your screen from Brushy Fork. You might want to say, proud of this work we're doing together, Mike Hog. Does that make, see what I'm saying? So sign off as you and let people know that not only are you sending this to them personally, but you're sending it from yourself personally. And I think that just adds so much value. It gives a warmth and a trust to your newsletter, so it's less salesy. So I'm more likely to read a newsletter that is coming from Emily than I am from her organization. Not that I don't love the organization, but I want to hear from Emily. What's going on? What's the nitty gritty in the heart of that? And so that's what is going to make a real difference. On the technical side of things, you always want to check for accessibility and mobile optimization because you are, like I said, most people are reading these on their phones. They're sitting in car line waiting to pick up their kids and scrolling through their newsletter or whatever that may be. Make sure that your images have alt text. When we talk about some of the platforms in a minute, that is an option on there. So you just click the image, add the alt text. So it might say, grandmother and grandson at the library checking out grandson's first book. That way, if the image doesn't show up, then people at least know what the image is of and they don't feel like, I missed that. You want to make sure that you also use high color contrast. So you don't want to have white text on a gray background, but white text on a black background would be okay. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is different because we're all used to Times New Roman 12-point font. But in a newsletter, you want to use 14 to 16 point font. And then number 9, test it before you send it, and then send it to a friend and let them test it too. Cindy, yes. Oh, you're muted.
I just wanted to check. We've been told also that using a sans serif font is more accessible for people who have processing issues.
It is.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I love Open Sans. It's my favorite font to use. It is very clear, easy to read. It's not an overwhelming font, and it is typically accessible by all phones, all computers. It's one of those that's kind of built in and everybody recognizes it.
Can you type what that is in? I'm not familiar with that font. Can you type that into the chat so I get it down right?
Sure. Jamie, can you do that so I don't have to move the chat?
Yes.
I've got too many screens open and I'm afraid I'll lose my way if I do that. Thank you. But you want to make sure that when you send it to yourself, you're looking for things like typos, any kind of weird spacing. I mean, sometimes this happens and it just takes a minute to go back and do some trial and error to make sure that your spacing is not off, or that there's any weird broken links or broken lines. Sometimes your images don't load and you want to figure out why. And so there will be some Google searching there to figure out why, making sure that your Googles are embedded in there. And then you also want to make sure that subject line is not cut off. So check it on your computer, I almost said laptop, and then also check it on your phone to make sure that that subject line is not cut off, because why? It's the thing that is going to be the most important to get people to even open it to read it. And then I always send it to a friend or a coworker and say, can you proof this for me and look at it as well? And then the next thing that you want to do is track your results. You may not get perfect open rates or click rates. You probably won't. But try different things. So track it and keep up with it for the first, few months and see why did this newsletter get better open rates or better click-through rates? What are people clicking through? Are they on the call to actions? Are they clicking through for more, read more stories? Did that get their attention? Did they, when you sent the newsletter and you asked for donations, did more people click on it? What is it that is going to get the action out of people, and track that so you can see, try different things, track it, see what your audience is interested in. But not only that, you want to see what they ignored. So what is it that they're not interested in? And that's just as insightful as what they are. And then use that data to, refine what you're doing and try again. So there's nothing wrong with getting it, doing it one way and then trying something new the next time. But if you will follow these checklists that I gave you, you are more likely to have a clear, consistent, and compelling newsletter. And so these are the kind of things that will help you.
Are there linked, if one of the things you're doing is there's been a major report that shows all this interesting stuff. I still have this prayer that some people actually like to read. Is a link to how they can access that, or a link to the report itself? Is there any use with newsletters to try and connect people with longer amounts of information if they choose to click?
Yes, that's exactly what you want your newsletter to be. So if you think about those next two, I talked about the 2 to 3 things in the middle. So you've got your main story and then your 2 to 3 sections. And we talked about some different ideas. It's a great place to put that. So, you want to learn more, read read this here. Yeah. Any other questions? So newsletter services for nonprofits. So I've listed 4 here. So MailChimp is actually what we use at PRI. And it is really good for, and I hope you guys cannot hear that. My husband is vacuuming upstairs and I am not going to complain about that. So hopefully you don't hear the vacuum. I am very happy that he's up there doing that for me. But it is great for beginners and small teams. So typically our newsletters that we send out are, there's just a few of us who use them. So we don't need some big mega, newsletter service. It is free for up to 500 contacts. So it's a great one to use. It is very, very easy to use. There's a drag and drop template that we use. So it sets everything up so nicely for you that analytics are great. I can send it. I can immediately look and see how many people I sent it to, how many people opened it. And if there are links in there, it'll even show me how many people clicked it and which ones they clicked. It's really, really easy to use. Very nice. It's popular. It integrates with a tons of tools. If you use Canva, it integrates with Canva. It's great. Constant Contact is another one that I've used in a previous life. It has a lot more features, integrations. It's MailChimp on steroids a little bit, but you're going to pay for those steroids. Okay. Canva email. I have not used this one. So Canva now has it says it's a very simple option, but it now has where you can actually send your newsletter in Canva. It is free for nonprofits. If you have the Canva for nonprofits, it might be a great option to look into. I just have no experience with that. Has anyone used it? No one. It's pretty new, but I feel like Canva is so easy to use. It shouldn't be that hard. So I am going to look into it and check it out. And then another one that I have not used is Substack. It is great when you want to do community updates, thought leadership, some storytelling. I looked into it. It looks really nice. It looks very easy to use. It has a built-in subscriber tool, which they most all do. And it's very simple. So if you are really just kind of sending kind of a letter from the executive director, and you're not doing like the whole big layout and having several different sections, just a letter from the director, this might be a great option for you. It's free as well. So I tried to put on here the free options for you guys. I did include Constant Contact because it is really, really nice. I just don't know if that's something that you would need, but if you were going to pick a paid one, that's the one I would choose.
Substack, I have a friend who uses it extensively, and for doing story anthologies, it's the thing that you can do the most classic kind of, if I had a really lovely publication in my hands, it could look like this. And what I like about it is if you have regular features that you're sharing with people, it can sort of archive, so you can go back and go, this was this is the volunteer of the month, or this is the policy update. It's very easy to organize things and go back to previous publications with it.
It looked really simple when I was using it, and that's kind of the thought I had too, Michael, is, if you are trying to do just something really simple, focused, that's Substack would be great. But I recommend that if you don't have a newsletter platform that you're using, look at all 4 of these and try them. They're free. It can't hurt you to try them all and see which one fits your needs the best. I cannot believe that I have gotten all of this in an hour. Y'all are probably like head spinning, but I want to leave you with this. Build a community that opens your emails, engages with your mission, and takes action. That's our goal. And so the way you're going to do that is with one strong subject line, one meaningful story, and one clear call to action. If you focus on those 3 things, that is going to get you this community that opens your emails, engages with your mission, and takes action. If you do these consistently, you're going to build that community. You will. And then this is where it brings us to next week, because we want that community, right? But now that we've built our community and we have all this great following, now we need to communicate with our funders, our volunteers, and our key stakeholders. So here's what we're going to cover next week. How to tailor our messages to funders, how it's different to funders versus volunteers versus partners. We've talked about this a little bit when we've talked about LinkedIn. We're going to talk about it in a lot more detail next week. What do funders actually want to hear? We're going to talk about that. We're going to shift from a needs-based to a strengths-based communication. We're going to talk about including youth voices in our storytelling, how to build a more positive community narrative. We talked about Facebook earlier. We don't want people getting on there and being negative Nancy's, right? We want that positive feedback. And then how to inspire hope, optimism, and a shared purpose. So that'll kind of be the culmination of our conversations. We'll just pull it all together and tie a little bow on it next week. Any more questions? Anything?
I have a question about the 4 platforms.
Yes.
So MailChimp integrates with our website. So if we publish a news article on our blog, or if we publish an event that is happening, it'll automatically send out. Do you know if the other services automatically integrate like that?
Canva will not. That I don't believe it will. I believe Constant Contact does. I do not know about Substack.
Lydia, I see you responded with something in the chat if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, so it's typically called an RSS integration if you need the words to Google how to do that and implement it. Most of the major platforms will do it. Canva does not yet, but Canva is keeping it kind of proprietary because they're creating their own website platform, or they've already created it, but they're trying to keep everything in a singular unit. My other concern with Canva, even though it is awesome, they have some major deliverability issues. So just be aware of that you may have some issues with spam. But everybody else, all of the major platforms have the functionality Whether or not it's an extra fee is a different story. So just being aware of that as you're seeking which ones to work with. But MailChimp is free. Flowdesk does their integration for free. And then a lot of them as well, if it's not a free integration, there are tools and ways that you can connect them easily and quickly and like have it be automated. But
Did you know if Substack was as well?
Substack is, let me look into it. I'm happy to and send you an email. Substack, where it's a publishing platform, it would be able to have Substack directly to Substack's email list. But I'm not certain. Do you know, Ryan?
I don't. I haven't used Substack, so I'm not sure.
I've not tried or had to do that connection with clients before. It's either somebody uses Substack to publish and they're also using it for their email list, or they're not. I've not seen anybody try to connect over the content management platform and the email management platform. I've not seen somebody try to make that bridge, just because it's not a bridge people want to build for the most part.
If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
It would depend on if you're just starting out, I would start with MailChimp. That would be my preference because you can do a lot of segmentation and or doing Flowdesk, which is another option that isn't on this list. It's a newer one that small businesses use a lot. I love the Flowdesk one because you can have multiple email addresses attached to it and send out from multiple spaces. You can have unlimited subscribers and you can set up all kinds of workflows and automations that are really handy. But that is a paid option. So beginners just starting out, I would do MailChimp for sure.
That's the one I would recommend as well.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I know we're just over time, so thank you all so much for joining us. Just a quick reminder that next week is going to be our last time, and I'm sorry I'm sharing the wrong screen. I'm trying to share my flyer here. Oh yeah, there we go. So next week we'll be talking about, like Ryan mentioned, stakeholder communication, and please remember we had to reschedule, so it's actually on November 19th at, I'm sorry, I forgot to update my flyer and now I don't have that memorized.
It's at 1:30.
Yes.
Same time, different day.
But on Wednesday instead of Thursday. I think Mike mentioned this in the chat, but if you are a Berea College Appalachian Fund grantee and there's anything within what you're learning that you need help implementing, please do reach out to Brushy Fork, to myself or Mike, Jamie, or Lydia. And we're happy to work with you all to help bring all of this to reality. This is the kind of project we're here to support you with. And then one more reminder, please also don't forget that next week we will have Jordan Carmike talking about simplifying, streamlining, and sharing AI-powered impact report. So making the best impact end of year report you can using tools available to us. And that's on Thursday from 2 to 3:30. So next week's a packed week. So please do try to make it for both. There's a lot of great content in there, and reach out to us with any questions.
Jordan is great. I do not recommend missing her. You all will learn a lot from her. She's incredible.
It's great. So are you, Ryan. So thanks again.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you,
Y'all are
Ryan.
great. You're welcome. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.